Great to see everybody. Welcome back. What a day, huh? Always stuff going on. It does not sleep, and it's quite interesting to see what's happening. I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, you are all asleep. Lovely to see you. This is past Gab talking to the future you guys. Jennifer Briggs does not sleep. That is insane. Insane. And she's gone, which is good. So there it is. This is it. And instead of sitting with myself, your fault. You got to put your phone on silent. That's my rule. I put my phone on silent after like a certain time, and if people call or not call, bad luck. I have some exceptions. You know, you can put your phone on blocking mode and then have a couple of exceptions like daughters, fathers, parents, whatever. So this is, as we know, Reesby. Good girl. And people, human beings normally come around and interact and have coffees together, and it's very interesting. Then you have someone with their son. Then you start to wonder and hypothesize what's going on. And you have one lady with 2 coffees with a crying child. So is she taking the coffee to someone else? Is it for herself maybe? Because she's not sleeping enough, because she has her daughter that doesn't stop crying. She looks pretty distressed, the mother, as well as the daughter. And then there's that car behind me, people coming, shopping, crossing the roads. It's a beautiful afternoon. You're inviting followers. I thought you were trying to go to sleep. And this is what it is to live Gabulous. Irrespective of the drama and the pain and the tragedy that is life, you have to take out time to be Gabulous. This is the rule. And for example, I did something little that was fun, which was when they asked me what name should we put at Gloria Jean's when I was waiting for my coffee, I said David. And I thought, let's just see if they call David, if my brain will respond. And then I also have these glasses, which are actually, they don't serve any purpose. I don't see any better or worse without them, and they're not sunglasses either. I just put them on. I become a Democrat voter when I put them on. Hello, darling. Oh, I really do appreciate that thought. You know, the thought is what is magnanimous. Precipitously magnanimous, my dear. Oh, see, as soon as I took them off, I couldn't pronounce the word. Let's see if they make me smarter. 1 + 1 is 3. 1 + 1 is 2, darling. 3, 2, 3, 2. Yeah, it works. Planet Boston. Boston is a planet. Who knew? And now we have Gerard Malouf and Partners lawyers. And now we have a train stopping at Reesby. And it seems to be pretty full, even though it's going into the city when people have finished work. My brain starts wondering why, and does that thing, doesn't stop. So what was interesting was a few years ago, the lady studying to become a doctor, bastards, they're all nice to me at the time, and now after they become doctors I hear nothing from them. Users. Alright, so I was talking to him about creating the autistic dictionary. That was one. There you go, you just heard the person scream. There is something about this environment that is really peaceful. People coming home from school, leaving. It used to remind me of when school finished. I'm not really sure. Even though those in South Korea are studying like crazy up until 10 at night. All right, do you think it's important to have a safe place that you can explode? That is not a dirty joke, my friends. That is to do with the Tourette's syndrome. Mother. All right, so that's what we do on the Gablife. I wouldn't say it's important as much as it is a necessity. That was quite interesting. It is an unwanted necessity, and the lack of ability I have to tolerate lies and other people and hypocrisy, I think it's detrimental, because I basically can't spend time with most people, including almost my whole family, both here on the Mediterranean. So these are little things that people don't recognize as issues that the autist suffers. Now, life is a tragedy in general, and that's okay, but it doesn't have to be hell. And so we need to share our tragedies with other people sometimes, or some of us do anyway. All right. They hold what I find a logical abuse, and I call them out on it, and supposedly that is socially unacceptable. And then the doctor asked me if there was anything else that I could think of that might hinder me aging well. I have to control my movements, so the autist must control their movements and make sure they are not jerky. And the way I walk, I have to constantly imitate neurotypical so I don't show my identity. It's not showing my identity that is the problem. It's how people will react once they realize that the autist is different. It sort of makes you hate them while simultaneously making you hate yourself. It's an interesting paradigm, isn't it? Miss Bombshell, we're talking about the autist hating other people, but then oscillating between hating other people and hating themselves. It's interesting to see new generations of people born now in the future. That's how it feels. It's sort of like I'm sitting in the future. Helen! Hello, Ms. Bombshell. Mr. Ms. Bombshell. So this brings me back to times after school when I would be dreaming of escaping the hell, but there'd be a peace because after school was the temporary section of relief from pain. And this time of the day in this location, always near a train station for some reason, just in a section where people don't walk, where the trees are quiet, you know, and there aren't many people hanging around this area, I like to sit there. In fact, it'd be good to show you guys my preschool. Maybe I should go there today and show it to you. Interesting. There's a guy here that just had a date with someone. He left, he's come back with a new girl. The things that you see when sitting around. Okay. He just looked at me. I don't know if he realizes that I know. Feel free to speak is what the doctor said. And I said, all this idea of conformity, tradition and culture, it seems to me illogical. So this is me before I learned most of what I learned. Louder. I couldn't tell if you were serious. So one of the things is that me now, right, is unbelievably different from the one 3 years ago. And the 3 years ago, so basically every year I learn more than all of the last years combined, but that's the same for each year. So 3 years ago I knew more than all of the years before that combined, but now I know more than that whole person knows combined, right? It's a very interesting exponential concept, and it makes life travel much more quickly than it would otherwise perhaps have traveled. Okay, conformity, tradition and culture. It is illogical. Any autistic that I know, including the children I mentor, seem to be troublemakers or rebellious to the regular human beings, but I can see that they are not, or I submit that they are not. They are sad, it seems to me. And while it is illogical to scratch your left ear with your right foot, this is what people seem to do from our side when they say, "How are you? How was your day?" You know, this. We know full well that the other person does not give a damn. But what most autistics don't realize is that they do care. But the way they care is expressed via nonsensical words, which they need to establish a emotional connection in the very first place. Ugh. This is constant dialogue I have in my head, obviously, which you are now hearing a drop of. That's the Facebook noise. This is, of course, torment. The dream to live underground, but to have the ability to build part of that house through the trunk of a tree up to the top. That would be awesome. That is one of my dreams. But there are benefits. It's very easy for me to get along with children because I find them more like me as opposed to adults. So there you go. Some of this stuff I've said before. What's interesting is that I was saying it back then when I knew so much less than now. I can only tell you what my friend tells me. Despite me thinking I'm not human, she thinks I am more human because I have the purity of a child. I don't know what that is, but to me, children are normal. They are straight. Whoosh, sit. You don't have to say, how are you? We just talk about what we like and what we don't like. We can jump on trampolines, we can do maths together, and it's really fun because the way I see it is for some reason the way they see it. Do you think children change as they get older? Yes. Kids lose that as they get older, where I do not, have not, and probably will not. That's an interesting thing, and that's probably why, Helen, we get along really well. But maybe when you get older, you might start to become more like other humans. But maybe not, because your mum is really funny. So kids lose that as they get older, is what I said back then. They start to say things which they know aren't true. And then I've noticed that humans get to this point where they say something, not only do they know is untrue, but they also know that you know it's untrue. That's a very interesting concept. Not only do they say stuff they know is untrue, adults, they say stuff that is untrue that you know is also untrue, and that seems to be okay. It's like both parties are bullshitting each other, and they both know that they're both bullshitting, and somehow there's some actual true meaning in that. That's another thing about humans, which I find quite interesting. All right, this part is bullshit, which I call bullshit still in my hall, bugger, for asking what I want to, I don't know. This part is bullshit in my hall, bugger me for no end, and part of your soul dies, and you have to learn to accept that it is part of humanity. My brother, for example, looks more autistic because he never tried to learn how to function the way I did. He just doesn't care. He can't stand people. He will just stay away from them completely. And then she asked if there was a reason I wanted to be more actively involved with people. Very good question. I think it's genetic. Ever since I was a child, my desire was to be around people or in the proximity of people. And she asked, still now? I said, absolutely. Hence this discussion with yourself, and hence why I'm on Periscope. Even despite all the times you could not communicate. This is correct, despite all of the inability to communicate. After the suicide attempt, back then I was still partly religious, blah, blah, blah. I will move on to the next question. All right, so they're asking a few other interesting questions. It doesn't seem that interesting to me. So I lived in the European Lebanon. I lived in Arabic Syria. I was there when the rebels took over. I lived in Australia. I lived in an Islamic community in Australia as well as a Catholic community, also a Protestant community. The only time that I was happy was in the Lebanese part of my life, back over there. They have a social network which I found in Spain and other Mediterranean countries, and I was able to observe them interacting with each other and learn so much about human behavior, and which made me very happy. I think that reinforced and increased my desire to want to be around people, maybe. Australian society is brilliant. You get a beautiful perspective in Australia because of all the people that you are mixed around with, all the different cultures. Unfortunately, I didn't get that in the Islamic side as much, as people don't want to hear that. Too many of my friends would open my car doors and spit at gay people and things like that, and unfortunately if I told them to stop it, I was accused of being an infidel. I'm not saying everyone is like that, but that is an element within that community which I happen to find. Alright. Then I learned how to define happiness, which is a bit boring. And then she says, last question. The last question is as follows. In your life, is there anything in your life environment that could be stopping you or blocking you from being more healthy and happy? Yeah. The desire to spread the message about who we are and the subset of humanity. I love it, but I hate it at the same time. Oh, wow. The one going out west is way more crowded. Answer. Go for it. What's something in your life that you regret? Being born. But apart from that, nothing. I could easily regret, if this, if that, then this wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been accused of stuff. I wouldn't be facing punishment for a thought crime I didn't think. I wouldn't be falsely accused of stuff. I wouldn't have had such a traumatic life, such torture. If that, if this, if that. But the thing is, you can't say that because everything I did was to the best of my knowledge at the time, and you can only be happy with, doing what you believe is right. And you learn from that. And I wouldn't have met you guys, I wouldn't have studied Syriac, I wouldn't have been on Periscope, so you can't say. So therefore, no. Yeah. Alright. I want to feel that release that I felt when I was at my father's country, where I didn't need to prove or do anything. But I don't want that happiness yet because I want this message to get out. With every minute that I try also brings some sort of relief, but of course when I say that, I'm telling you this now. But as soon as I hang up the phone, the anxiety will slowly build up again. Where else can I now help laughs? It's positive and negative, and yet that is an inhibitor. I don't blah 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 blah. Once the PhD is done, and if I'm able to solve something large which will help many people from different generations, I'm hoping that at that point I can take a break and maybe go back home, ... to my real home. Maybe that will be the final chapter of the book. The final book of the volumes. Is there anything else that may be stopping you from being healthier and happier? Yes, the humidity. Ha ha ha. I wrote this little article which no one has read on fun, about legitimizing fun for the autistic, because it makes no logical sense unless you add that fun. If you quantify fun, you can exchange those units of fun for energy to do something that requires your emotional energy level. I spoke about that on YouTube. It's called Understanding Enjoyment or something like that. That's the only way I can have fun. Otherwise, oh, let's go out on fun day. No, I can't. I have to work, or not enough time, blah, blah, blah. All right. Is there anything else in the community that you believe is a hindrance? In the community, ? I don't spend time with people anymore, as that was a hindrance. Why don't you spend time in the community? Because despite learning everything I did, after that to be accused of horrific things and have 40% of people believe it just because it suited their own brain, I just thought to myself, well, I got to this point where I said, fuck humanity, fuck them all. Why am I doing anything for anybody? Since then, I have been very, very weary to talk to anyone. But even when I do talk to people, I just assume they are going to misunderstand me and hate me for it, and who gives a shit? That's the only way I can do it. And there it is. I don't know if any of that was new information or whether it reinforces any old information, but I thought I'd finally read it to you guys. Any questions? You are welcome. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for caring. And remember that even though life is a tragedy, don't forget to live Gabulous.